I recently received a question on a previous video from Joshua Generation 6020, and he said, "How did you improve your finances during your stay with your visa?" When I first entered the USA, I was on an R1 visa, which meant that I could only do the religious work that was specified in my visa. I could not do any side hustles, no side business, no side gigs. And as a dependent, my wife could not work either, and she's not even entitled to get a social security number. Thankfully, I was receiving a good salary from my employer, and it was just me, my wife, and one son back then. But we still needed to manage our money. So here's what we did to improve our finances over the past 9 years. We did not spend on a lot of luxuries, so we chose to live in an older apartment in Nashville. But it was still good and it was safe for our family. We also didn't buy a lot of gadgets. No big TV for us. We only had a 32-inch Roku TV, which we still have, by the way. And we just needed to manage our wants. That meant no new gadgets like the latest ones, no PlayStation or Xbox for me. It also meant not going on expensive vacations. For kids' activities, we looked for free options. Thankfully, the Nashville Public Library provided a lot of fun events for our son. They did have some storytelling sessions, some coloring sessions, Lego sessions, and a puppet show even. And we also went to a lot of parks with playgrounds and lots of open spaces. And our apartment too was close to the lake, so we went on a lot of picnics with friends. And going back to the things that we needed at home, Craigslist was our friend, Facebook Marketplace was our friend, Goodwill was our friend, because we went to these places to buy second-hand items in order for us to save a few tens or sometimes even hundreds of dollars. We also cooked and ate at home most of the time, and we went to restaurants and ordered fast food every now and then, but eating at home helped us save a lot. And besides, we're Filipinos and of course we love Filipino food. Before we continue on to the next tip, please let me know if you have questions, comments, or additional tips for new immigrants and visa holders as they figure out this money and financial thing. Well, this one is a biggie. We bought used cars. So as of 2024, we're almost 9 years here in the US, and we've never ever bought a new car just yet. And by doing so, we have saved thousands of dollars with our used cars. No, don't get me wrong. We did not buy many cars at the same time. Our first car was a Kia Forte. Then we had a Ford Escape. Then as our family grew, we now have 3 kids, so we are now a family of 5. We traded our Forte for a Kia Sedona, a minivan. We sold our Ford Escape when we moved from Tennessee to Texas. And then in 2023, we bought a Kia Soul because, with a family of 5, we needed to manage our transportation needs. The very first time that I filed my income tax return, I was considered a single person. So that meant that my tax burden was greater. So imagine the standard tax deduction for a single person in 2015 was $6,300. But for married couples filing jointly, it was $12,600. That meant that Uncle Sam, the IRS, the US government got more money from my paycheck than what I really needed to give them. So we did something about that. We applied for individual tax ID number or ITIN for my wife and my son. And then I filed for my 2015 tax return amendment. You know what? We got back around $5,000 in tax refund after that.
Hallelujah!
We also started improving our credit score by applying for a secured credit card, and of course the car loan that we had also helped us establish our credit worthiness. We also established our emergency fund. I started listening to podcasts, some Dave Ramsey, Mr. Money Mustache, and you know what? Emergencies will always happen. It helps if you have funds to cover those. So I remember one time my eldest son needed to go to the emergency room because he had a stomach ache and he had diarrhea. We probably paid about $300 at the hospital for the emergency services. And then, surprisingly, after a month, we were shocked when there was another medical bill and it was for 750 US dollars. It was such a shock to us. It was so expensive. And that's the reality here in the US. Healthcare can be very expensive. So if you're a new immigrant as well, please build up your emergency fund as soon as possible. The financial guru Dave Ramsey, his recommendation is to have at least $1,000 ready and available to cover your emergency expenses. So we also started saving. Maybe not a lot at first, but we wanted to buy a house eventually, and at first, in our first few years, we felt like we could not afford a house because houses are expensive. But by saving money here and there, we knew that we could save up a down payment for a house. So about 4 years after we first arrived in the US, we became green card holders or permanent residents, which meant that I could work on side gigs, on a side hustle or side business. Yeah! My wife could work too. However, we calculated the cost of childcare, babysitters or daycare, and if she had a salary, all of it would just go to the childcare expenses. So she ended up continuing to be a full-time wife and mom to our kids. And over time, with some side hustles that we were able to do, we started selling some stuff on eBay and we started doing some gigs online. We were able to grow our savings and eventually we were able to buy the house that we are in right now. Money is such an important part of your life in the USA, and if you build the right foundations, you will be able to improve your finances and enjoy the life that you want. After all, there are a lot of opportunities here in the US. So improving your credit doesn't need to feel like a mystery. So if you want to increase your credit score, I have a few tips and tricks in this next video.